left up are not as consistent. The Varus, been about's #1 champion, not only this year, but last year when he was on Gen G Academy down in the Challengers League. So makes sense to take away, but when you're talking about Karis picks that are available, the Ryze left up on the board. They banned this out over the Akali in game number 2. It's time for WE to show them why.
And they pick it over the Akali here in game number 3. It's definitely a safer blind, so I think it's a wise choice to go for if you're WE. But here's the classic counter pick. Care, looking at this, Cassiopeia has already played it once this season. I think this would be his first repeat champion of 2026. No, the Ari was. All right, well, never mind. But still, 2 in a night, not bad. Going to grab himself this Cassiopeia, and Guwon goes for the Qiyana. So trying to put on some carry shoes from the jungle, rather than being that kind of low econ enabler that he's been for them basically all season.
Yeah, he's had a phenomenal Qiyana game already this split, and so I think they feel very comfortable running that back. But what has worked so far for WE, it's playing around the bot lane. You noted it. About and Yaoyao have kind of been the 2 most consistent performers for WE. Let's give them something they can be proactive with and that can win them the game. This Ryze Sivir combination has been really effective for multiple teams globally, and it just, again, gives About the opportunity to be able to carry in the later part of the game with real initiation and a good ult target for Ryze with the Alistar to go in. It's the Gnar that's going to be the answer on the top side here for Hoya. I really like this champion, especially with a lot of the, champions you've drafted around it right now, the Cassio and the Qiyana, because it's really nice at being able to not only survive and even thrive in the early game, but create space in the late game and give you more options on engage tools.
NIP investing over towards Hoya after his really strong game number 2, getting him this Gnar, banning to defend it. They take away the Jax. They're going to take away the Pantheon as well to try to limit opportunities to be able to get on towards Care and set up Cube for a successful laning phase. Monki going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel here a little bit. And what does Cube have left in the tank to try to play up against this Gnar? See if he can find a way to prevent Hoya from getting these sorts of leads when he's able to pop off.
Definitely some more aggressive options in his champion pool still available, but we'll have to see just how aggro he wants to play this game out. WE want to take away the comfort options. It's the Kai'Sa, one of the main carries for Assum that he's been really, really successful on. We saw that specifically in the EDG series, where he really popped off, and Zhuo was kind of a Nautilus player for a very long time, and so it definitely makes sense to consistently take that away. One of the more reliable forms of engage left up if you want to try and compound that off of that Gnar engage. So gonna be interesting to see what they go for here. I imagine they're going to want to draft that support last, and it's gonna be the Kalista lock-in. So that 2v2 priority that we have seen really permeate this series for both sides is definitely carried into game 3.
Yeah, trying to play an aggressive bottom side here. Maybe going to be something like the Kalista Renata. Could also just chuck in any of the remaining engage supports if that is the direction they want to go in. Cube's hovering it. It's a decent matchup into the Gnar. In theory, is strong in side lane, and he will snap it up. Every series, Cube has played Yorick, and it is undefeated so far. Now over half of the Yorick games in the LPL have been from Cube, and he's going to try to perform on it again here. Monki taking the MS into the jungle, and there's that Renata duoed with the Kalista that we have come to expect.
Yeah, these are really interesting drafts because you would typically look at Qiyana Cassio as a mid-jungle duo and talk about the power that comes from a lot of these late-game team fights, but because of the Kalista Renata and even at times the Gnar on the top side of the map, you're looking at a team that really does want to snowball this game. The Cassio wants to win that lane against Ryze. You draft it for the counter, but Qiyana wants to snowball this game, and of course Kalista Renata want the 2v2. You're going to get to a point here where that Sivir is going to be incredibly dangerous, and you're going to be having to stare down the Yorick split pushing in a side lane while Ryze can also split push at really an effective level, and the Mbessa is almost always going to be a threat onto your backline. So you definitely want to try and win this early if you're NIP, and if you're WE, you're feeling pretty good about the team fights, but at least throughout the series so far, it's not necessarily mattered. It's been so chaotic and crazy that I'm just excited for Game 3.
Absolutely. And for me, it's eyes on the junglers, both on squishy, high burst damage, big playmaking junglers here, and we've seen both of them kind of fumble the ball a little bit throughout this series, but we've also seen both of them have huge moments where they are the big difference makers in their team's success in the team fights. That's going to be more true than ever here as the matchup is Mbessa up against Qiyana. See who is going to reign supreme tonight, and that player is probably going to be the one who walks away with the series win and perhaps the lock on first place in the group.
Definitely going to be important as we get out on the map here for game number 1.
Checking on
Pretty
out.
traditional setups is get a little bit of poke coming down here from Guwon. Just going to be a word trade as per usual.
Yeah, Karis finds himself face-to-face with Care. Will proc the face rush and get himself a nice little trade, actually, to start things off. But both junglers going to be on the move towards the bottom side. You know, both of us, we were making jokes before the series started about Cube's Yorick perhaps being a little ill-advised, never really leading to these big advantages, right? He's got so many games of Yorick, but he's never ahead in gold in the early game and never contributing a lot of damage to his team's profile. But perhaps there's something that WEC in this pick that the rest of the league doesn't. Maybe this is the game to show it.
I certainly think they've set up their team comp a little bit better around it than typically they do. The 1-3-1 is incredibly strong here for WE. Going to be one of the more difficult things to stop, and Bessa and Alistar together in that 3 section is going to be able to keep that Sivir really, really safe, and obviously the push and the priority from that champion is immense and very difficult to deal with. So going to be really important that you make sure that Yorick is in a good spot. We already see a lot of trading going down in the mid lane. Ghost popped for both of these mids already.
Ghosts exchanged, Care pops his, and Karis immediately has to give that respect on over. The Cassiopeia, often prized as a strong counter into the Rise, be able to match that machine gun style with a little bit better of a range. And so, Karis going to have to play with a fair bit of respect. Will, of course, still have that Realm Warp to edge him out later on and to make him that superior side lane force. And he has been so good at being able to come out and help his teammates with that Realm Warp. I think that's been a major defining factor of Karis' rise. And, of course, rises in general this season. But Karis in particular done such a good job of being able to make sure that About and Yaoyao and Monki always have the support they need when he's on this champion.
Yeah, his ability to play the map is going to be put on display here because you're really looking at kind of an interesting draft for NIP on the other side when we're so sure that you want to play the 1-3-1 in the side lanes in general with the Yorick and the Rise. You're kind of wondering how NIP slot into that in the late game, and really what it probably ends up turning into is not only a clump game, but more of a protect the Cassio kind of game for Care here, somebody who has had success on this champion in the past. You, of course, want to make sure your Kalista and Qiyana are in as good of a spot as possible, but really those front-to-back fights are very playable for NIP, and it's all really centered around whether or not this counter pick can work. It's funny, you know, Cassio is definitely a counter pick to Rise, and historically it's always been the main one, but stats definitely show an interesting story with Rise coming out on top quite a bit in that matchup. We'll see how both these mids played out as we get some rumbling here in the jungle.
Monki trying to steal away these birds. Been a lot of fighting over him here. Guwon going to be able to secure it, but Karis flashes forward, lands the Rune Prison, but Guwon still has a flash of his own to get back over the wall.
Yeah, flash for flash, especially on the Qiyana, is very, very nice to pick up. It's unfortunate for Karis that he's not able to get more from that, but overall, definitely an okay trade for WE to make sure you can kind of take away some of those early aggressive plays that Qiyana can typically make. For now, WE are just going to play a little bit slower as NIP continue to push in down on the bot side. You know, we've talked about 2v2 prio. Both of these teams have really wanted to make sure that they can get that at different points in the series. Once again here, after game number 2, it's going to be NIP that have that control, and Kalista Renata are definitely doing their thing right now.
Doing a great job here at being able to keep that wave shoved on in. They're already up about 10 CS, which is pretty good for Assum. Going to hope to build that up even bigger. Gets an extended laning phase up against this Sivir on the double ranged bot lane. Renata, Kalista been one of the more prized lane dominant duos for a while here. Karis doing a good job in this mid lane here too. Going to be able to get the first recall out of Care, despite the time that he spent over to try to disrupt Guwon's clear.
Yeah, it's a lot of tempo going the way right now of NIP with that 600 gold lead. Almost all of it on the bottom side, but definitely have to point out that Hoya's doing a good job on the Gnar on the top side. You know, we talked about Cube's Yorick, but Hoya just had a phenomenal game on a champion that has backline access and engage tools. And You know, Gnar might not be quite as straightforward in that regard, but definitely still a champion that I think can accomplish a lot if Hoya is going to continue to be the better top laner in this series. You know, that could still be a really big factor as we see Dragon prioritized, at least for now, in terms of the pressure for Guwon. It looks like it's just going to be topside rotations coming in from Monki. See how aggressive NIP want to play this out. The Qiyana definitely has the ability to try and pick off the Rise, but with level 6 available, I think both of these teams just want to make sure they can get to their spikes.
No doubt. Want to be able to get that level 6 for these junglers, especially to be able to truly have the full burst combo. Karis
Hoya's coming down.
Actually going to be the target here. Yeah, Hoya on his way. We do have Monki here for the additional disruption. We'll get a couple of swipes in on towards Guwon as Karis is able to fall back away. Here's Hoya in there on the Mega Gnar, though. Finds Monki, who gets up too far, and NIP claim first blood.
Ask and I shall receive. Hoya follows up a great game number 2 with a great start in game number 3. First blood going over to this Gnar, and that's the kind of playmaking that you want to see. That's how you utilize this kind of lane pressure on the top side. Really, really well done from the NIP top laner. And once again, you're just looking at a bit of an overextension from Monki, something he's been susceptible to multiple times this year. Yaoyao.
Wow, nice knock-up found there. Flash pulverize from about. Going to be, or from Yaoyao rather, going to be able to get Zhuo under the turret briefly and create a positive trade that gives a little bit of breathing room back over to About to clear out this wave and maybe stop getting denied so much CS.
Yeah, it's a proactive play made by Yaoyao to try and, you know, adjust how this laning phase is going to go. You got to do your best against Kalista Renata. It's going to be a tough battle to fight, but once you can start to get that wave clear coming through from the Sivir, things do get a lot easier, and I think Yaoyao was happy to burn those resources early to make sure it's a little bit safer in the long run, we'll just say. Dragon's still on the map here at around 7 minutes. Grubs are spawning in 40 seconds. This could just be a trade of objectives. I'm curious to see where the priority ends up landing. Grubs for WE's comp look incredibly strong. Yorick and Rise and this entire split push identity with those Grubs could be very, very menacing to deal with. I imagine NIP are looking down at a very similar problem here.
Certainly. Dragon going to be on the menu, and they do look to start it on up. Guwon here with his bottom lane, fresh off, of course, a recall out of About. I do think NIP are going to claim this with ease. Still a few seconds away from the Grubs, too. Does give an opportunity for Guwon to make his way on up there if he does decide it's something he wants to go for. Hoya's on a recall, though, so this top wave will be crashing here very soon.
Yeah, I imagine this is just going to be an aggressive trade. We'll see how aggressive NIP want to make this. For now, they are bringing up Guwon. He's at least going to be in the area. He will be spotted on vision, but it's a 1v1 with the junglers in the pit at the moment.
He claims 1, but now Guwon here to start it on up as the backup of the rest of his squad. So yeah, looks like NIP should be able to claim themselves 2 of the Grubs at the very least. And in addition to the first Dragon and the gold lead, NIP having a pretty solid early game to themselves here. It all traces back to that first blood onto Monki and the fact that this bot lane aggressive duo is working out for them.
I mean, WE really taking no chances in the early game. They understand that their power does not lie here, but a bit later. Still a lot that they need to make sure that they can get a little bit more comfortably, but at the moment, it's going to be a 1.5k gold lead for Ninjas in Pyjamas. You look down at your scoreboard, and it's a lot of yellow. I say that as Monki gets his 5 gold lead, but it's definitely a nice control of the map for NIP. They just need to make sure they can keep this pressure up. You want to make sure that gold is going into the right spots and not just stagnating around the early lead.
Definitely a high priority. And Hoya really starting to get himself ahead here. As I assume he's taken a couple of turret plates after that first blood based on how large that gold lead has grown. Can't quite tell on the minimap right now. But he is really doing a number to cube up here for having successfully collapsed on down and picked up that 400 gold bonus. That means both side lanes are just swinging into NIP's favor harder and harder. It means that Monki and Karis need to kind of try to find themselves a way to pull a proactive play back into this game.
And that's it, right? It's proactivity that's going to be able to salvage this. Gonna be a plate going down for Karis. He's gonna burn the ghost just to make sure he can secure it, but that's more gold going into the pocket of the Rise. We're talking about that split push being a problem. If the York is too far behind, it becomes a little bit harder to deal. You know, with 4WE, that Gnar is still going to be a bit of a problem. We see Mega Gnar being quite aggressive from Hoya. You're absolutely right in terms of those plates on the top side, but this is something we actually notice pretty commonly with Cube. Laning phase not always going his way, and yet he's found ways to make impacts in team fights on this champion with that 100% win rate. For now, it's Monki looking mid.
Oh, they do get the root, and there's the max range public execution from Monki. He cleans up Care and will get himself up to 1-1. Tying up the scoreboard at the same. Guwon arrives to mid, but no opportunity to get onto Karis here in the 1 versus 2.
Yeah, you called it out perfectly, Gordo. That was a super aggressive play made by Monki, finding the exact right timing to figure out when Care was the most susceptible, and Karis being very happy to pull the trigger on that engage. Talked about this a bit before. Cassio is a counter to Rise, but there are plenty of ways to be able to get Rise into the game when you play it out as aggressively as this. And we're seeing WE pull back some gold. That 1.5k gold lead cut down by about 1,000.
Nicely done there, and getting the Rise rolling. So with
a
double knockup, flash pulverized from Yaoyao. Flash away, but it's too late. Assum drops in the 2 versus 2 on the Kalista Renata lane, and a bout is on the board.
They're not done here. They're looking for Zhuo under tower.
There's no way they're able to clean this up, but Yaoyao is just tanking it up with the unbreakable will. WE 2 for 0 kills in the bottom lane.
That is monumental for WE. That is completely game warping. You needed that bot lane pressure, but all of a sudden, a lane that was looking pretty good for the Kalista Renata, maybe not quite as dominant as you wanted, but okay. 1.5k gold lead for About on this Sivir, one of the champions he's super comfortable on being able to carry in the late game. And now you might not even need that side lane pressure. All of a sudden, the push comes from the Sivir, and the damage is certainly going to be coming through.
I mean, that's the power of the Yorick, I guess, Kman. It doesn't make any sense, but it keeps happening. Q picks this champion, he loses in lane, he's down 1,000 gold, but the rest of his team just clutches up, and he's got 100% win rate on it.
Yeah, it's crazy how Cube ends up making this play for Yaoyao down on the bot side to perfectly knock Assum into the turret. Very well done, very proactive. It's the second time we've seen Yaoyao go for this play this game. It works even better the second time around, but he's not done just yet. He understands the power of this Alistar. The cow is massive at this point in the game, and Zhuo is not safe under his own tower as he gets taken down here by the Sivir. Yaoyao tanks quite a few tower shots and is able to really generate a lead for his team. It's still NIP that's going to get priority on this dragon, at least for now on this setup. It doesn't look like it's going to be contested all that much, but definitely not a bad game state for WE.
I think they're a little bummed they didn't get a chance to be able to contest that, because look at the 80 carry itemization right now. It's a full Essence Reaver already done for About, and yeah, they're going to look for a fight. They pop on the hunt, but a quick handshake from Zhuo will stop them in their tracks, and they will not be able to get the fight that they're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to fight around this spike. It's absolutely massive here for About. Assum is in a really, really tough spot. We talked about the fact that NIP are probably going to have to transition into trying to play more standard fights as this game goes along. With the way that their comp is structured, it becomes a lot more difficult. With no Kalista, Karis could be in trouble, though.
Karis steps up pretty far to be able to clear out those caster minions. Zhuo and Guwon waiting in the wings to try to find an angle onto him, but he keeps his distance. Does not fall victim this time around. So he will just be moving his way up towards top. It looks like there's an interest in a Realm Warp play here, and this is what makes this Rise so valuable. WE have been so good at using this pick to enable plays. Hoya plays respectively, but that means he's seeding this turret.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Hoya, who did a great job to generate his own lead. A lot of pressure now being put onto Cube. You want to make sure you can get him back into this game because your game plan still revolves around being able to play out these waves. It's just now more focused on About than maybe it was previously, but Cube is still essential in finding those, flank angles and the ability to really draw pressure away from the Sivir Alistar combo. So really nice investment here from WE. It does, mean that Karis is going to have to sacrifice some of that, gold that he was able to generate against Kara, but I certainly don't think he's going to worry about that too much at the moment.
WE, once again, find themselves in the lead at 15 minutes. Unusual territory for them this season, but should be very, very good for their capacity to be able to close it out. If they're able to make these comebacks happen consistently, then surely just having the lead is even better. Guwon is fishing on around. See if he can find an angle in towards About or any of these carries, but right now, he's trying to posture for the Rift Herald. Monki is already on it. He's got Cube at his back with that pop wave already having been shoved in.
Yeah, this is a very precarious fight for both teams. You definitely don't want to give Qiyana a free access point. She can still do a ton of damage, even at level 10 at this point in the fight. And Hoya definitely still a threat to watch out for. So much so that WE don't want the smoke. They want to get out of here. They're willing to cede this over to NIP. We've seen some passive gameplay out of WE. When they pull the trigger, they pull it correctly, but it doesn't seem like they want to take too much right now.
Karis actually realm warped his way down here to be able to start working on this turret. Will claim himself another turret plate. He will be able to back up Monki as he takes part in his favorite activity, stealing away the blue buff. And they're going to be able to successfully defend the mid lane turret as well. About uses the bouncing blades. Well, I may have spoken too soon. Rift Herald is dropped and is going to charge its way on in. It's another plate for them, but again, WE are here to be able to clear it on out. And meanwhile, Karis finishes off that bot lane turret.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice proactive play from WE. They realize there's no shot that they're ever going to be able to lose that tier 1 even with the Rift Herald dropped. And while that's a lot of gold going over to NIP, it's certainly a tempo advantage and even really a gold advantage for WE getting it onto the rise in particular. These solo laners that didn't look like they were going to be all that online have all of a sudden gotten all this tower plate gold and are in really great spots. While Cube is still down 100 gold, it's much more manageable. And now Karis is up 500. You still have a big lead onto Monki in the jungle because of the plays he's been able to make. WE are getting all the gold in all the right places right now, and Guwon could pay the price for it.
He finds Guwon here. He's not going to be able to finish him off, but he'll be able to chase him off, and at the very least be able to keep him at a lower health total for the foreseeable future. Knowledge of where Guwon is, huge game for WE, especially while Karis is still trying to play aggressively on this bottom side. He does take his recall, is continuing to work his way towards the double scaling items. Got a good job of getting that Rod of Ages stacked on up. I think he picked it up around 11 minutes, pretty good pace. Should have that extra spike on time. Guwon still low from the brawl with Cube. Will not take a fight with Monki, but Monki will successfully get his buff again.
Yeah, I mean, Monki, if he's shown anything over the course of this series, it's that he is very happy to take buffs away from Guwon. Despite the implications on the game, this time very effective in that regard. Continuing to hunt for something here in the jungle. Guwon's going to make his way here, but Assum and Zhuo are in the area. They're even committing the teleport with dragon spawning in 7 seconds.
About is up a full legendary item here.
Oh!
They would love to fight. Cube's going to get engaged on, but he's tanky enough to be able to absorb it. Yaoyao finds the knock up onto Hoya, but not a good angle to be able to find any kind of shots onto him. On the hunt gets popped by About, but Monki and Karis are cut off. This is a bit of an awkward fight for WE, and they aren't going to engage any further. So on the hunt blown, not much else. Hoya coming in for the engage. About going to have to flash away from the Gnar. Here comes Guwon. About in the middle of no man's land, but he does manage to stay alive. Finally, Hoya going to flash over the wall, going to be able to finish off the kill, but Guwon incredibly low. Cube all over Hoya, continues to chase him down, and the ghouls are just plucking away at that tiny Gnar health bar. Cube will finish off the kill, and despite About being picked off, it's a 2-for-1 fight win for WE.
NIP burned everything at the start of that fight to try and get those priority targets down. They're able to kill About, but it takes everything in their kit to do so. The Qiyana ultimate at the start ends up only hitting onto Cube, and that is a massive problem, as we're going to see in this replay. But About is just overextending. He does well to flash away, even with the spell shield from the ultimate from Hoya. But at this point, now that he's out, you have to commit not only Hoya flash, but Guwon jumping over the wall. Renata was a full targeting onto About as well, and that's just too many resources. You don't have the damage elsewhere to be able to make that worth it. Cube's able to, of course, chase down Hoya, and the dragon going over to WE is big. Stops the stacking, and now it's a 3k gold lead. You're looking at a almost 1k gold lead for both Monki and Karis in their own individual positions. It just gets harder and harder to imagine a world where NIP get back here.
It certainly is WE. And I mean, that was probably the best case scenario for NIP too, is About sections himself off. He buys a lot of time and forces them into an awkward position, so well done by him there. But the fact that they're able to take him out, I mean, he was the one with such a tremendous individual lead. Now it's more spread out. So now the pathway to a successful team fight's a little bit less clear. As Cube locks down Hoya for a second there, will be able to crunch his way out to safety.
Yeah, Hoya's doing an admirable job trying to stay relevant in this lane, but it is becoming more and more difficult to try and go up against the Yorick as this champion continues to get more items. This is the value of Yorick. This point in the game is going to be very, very difficult to, shut him down on, especially when you've got, Mbessa and Alistair that can really show up, a Rise who can Realm Warp in and really kind of punish any sort of aggressive tendencies you might make on him. Becomes very, very tough to shut that champion down, and we've seen from WE, they might have been passive in the early game on taking those skirmishes, but they've gotten to the point where they feel comfortable now, and, something tells me that this team is not going to be too afraid of pulling the trigger now that we've passed the 20-minute mark.
Wasn't passive, was Yaoyao. You still got to look back on the fact that he was able to find that pick onto Assum, get about rolling earlier on. Both of the VODS kills are still from that 2-on-2 double kill, and it was all started off by Yaoyao being able to find the angle. Now another angle found by Monki. Gets a public execution on a Guwon, takes him to about half HP, gets Supreme Display Talented into the wall. Hoya on the bottom side, they're going to be able to finish him off. Realm Warp is in, but it's too little and it's too late. About a million miles away, finally going to step back up here, starts to throw some boomerangs into Zhuo, who is about to fall down, gets sent through the handshake, but will the execution come on through? No, it will not. Bailout does not proc. Second kill comes on through, but it is Cube who drops down to the opposite side. It's 2 for 2 so far. Assum throws himself into the fight. Petrifying gaze across the team. Care firing away into a bout, and it's another ace found by NIP.
Gordo, why would I ever count anyone out in this series? Why would I ever say that anyone has a lead too big to throw? There is no such thing as a lead too big to throw. NIP find the perfect fight with Monki going way too deep in the jungle, feeling like he can execute Guwon, but Guwon's tanky enough to survive. He at least has enough health to be able to live the combo. We see this engage. It looks good at the start, but look at your minimap. Where is WE? NIP is collapsing fast. The ult comes down to lock down the Mbessa, and there's just no health bar to be able to survive. The Realm Warp is late, and while this fight looks like it could be playable at this point, the great flash from Assum onto Yaoyao really makes sure that the Kalista is as safe as possible. Yes, they're targeting the Renata, but look at the bottom end of this fight with Guwon jumping in, being able to take down Cube, who actually has a ton of value in this exchange. Yaoyao trying to delay the inevitable, but it's just not enough. Hoya chases down. The ult finally comes through from Karis, who's been so patient. And this Kalista Cassio that we talked about having a nice front to back, they really come through. This was the win condition, getting these two online, and they've just salvaged what was a terrible position.
Yeah. Now NIP find themselves back in the lead against all odds once again. The fact that WE continue to over-aggress from these positions of a significant lead, right? They're so likely to win the game from where they were, and they just can't help themselves. They just get their hand too far in the cookie jar. It's happened to them twice in this series now, arguably 3 times if you count the fact that they've pulled the leads back and thrown them again. It's just tragedy for them here, and now, I guess, back in the comfort zone, down 1.5K.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if there is a comfort zone for WE, it is down in gold, so you never really know what the entire intention is, but Monki, who's been making mistakes, makes a pretty crucial one. We'll see if he can make up for it. Teleport coming in, Dragon spawning in 4 seconds. This would be soul point for Ninjas in Pyjamas. They want to get that Infernal Soul, and they are setting up very aggressively around the area.
All 10 players here forget the side lanes. Potential fight starting off over this Dragon. NIP want to get themselves onto Soul Point, and WE say, fine, we'll let you. Taking the inside track towards mid, and it looks like NIP have fully committed here on towards the Dragon. Maiden going to do her best to try to fend them away. They have sight on all of them, and they're not going to really get much done out of the mid lane tower either, so the Dragon ends up going over to NIP, and WE don't get much for it at all.
I mean, this is the problem. How do you engage into this comp right now? Because you're playing around side lanes, but you don't have a side lane to play through. The front to back is terrifying around a Cassio and Kalista that have all of a sudden gotten some kills and gotten online. You definitely don't want to walk into Qiyana or Renata. So now WE is the one who's had the entire tables flipped onto them. The front to back looks incredibly scary and they don't find an approach angle. They get nothing mid lane because they've already taken down the tier 1. And it's all just for naught. Soul point acquired and the gold lead's still there for NIP.
Certainly is. One more from that Infernal Soul. About does have his Infinity Edge done. He could still be a massive damage threat in these fights. As a Monki gonna get caught out again. Supreme display of talent into the wall. Hoya claims the kill credit. Cube able to escape with the flash. Avoids getting gnarred back into his own wall. But that is another nice pick made. They're gonna try to get on Hoya here. Hoya's gonna be able to flash back away as Yaoyao stays on top of him. He will shift back into mini, get the movement speed, and get on out of there.
Yeah, it's another big pick onto Monki, who's just been getting caught multiple times over the course of this series. And really this game, still a great effort from Yaoyao to try and pull something back. But Baron is on the board. No jungler available for WE.
Trying to get on towards the big purple worm. Karis arrives. It's like fish in a barrel for him to fire away onto. He will get taunted on up. And
oh,
it's
no way!
stolen by About! Are you kidding me? A boomerang takes the Baron, but what about the follow-up fight? Karis getting jumped onto, going to fire away and get a kill right back. About booking it back towards his base, trying to get out of here with the Baron buff in tow, and he will do so. NIP, another unforced error, loses them the most unlikely Baron.
I cannot believe that a boomerang from About ends up grabbing that Baron. This Sivir has been so important towards this comp so far, and she continues to keep this game alive. We're gonna get a replay of how exactly this happened. Once again, Yaoyao just fully disrupting. This guy has had a phenomenal series so far, and he once again finds the knock-up here. He just pushes. He just pushes him out of the pit, and all of a sudden, 87 health. 87, that's what it came down to, and the Boomerang's gonna do more than enough. Guwon can't get himself back in, and yes, they're able to pick up some kills here. Karis goes down, you're able to take down Yaoyao as well, but no Baron has definitely gotta be demoralizing. If there is a silver lining here, it's that WE has not done too well with Barons throughout this series, so that might be the takeaway, but still a small mistake there for NIP.
Yaoyao, you are a hero, man. He's done so much this game, and he just gets a little bit more done as he gets Guwon out of there, removes the smite, and lets About take it. I mean, it's a low percentage play, but sometimes it happens, man. And if that isn't the name of the game for WE this season, they make it happen from a deficit. Still down 1.5k, but with Baron and a couple members, I think, no, Monki did not respawn in time, so it's only About who has the buff.
Will only be About who is able to push those waves, but it is a Sivir with Baron buff, so the push is very real as they take down this tier 2 in the mid lane. They're going to try and get as much as they can out of this. They're still at a negative Baron differential because of that fight. 50 more seconds remain. Monki posturing very aggressively. Not worked out for him so far, but you do actually have a bit of team backup here. There's still a lot of damage on WE. Let's not forget, this is still a team that can control a lot of the split push and a lot of the wave push in general throughout this game with the Sivir as well. So they're able to establish some tempo around the middle of the map. Things could get a little bit easier for them. This might just be the breathing room that they needed to reestablish themselves.
Very well could be. And get themselves a little bit more time. Let's see about the Dragon. The risk of the soul is still omnipresent. WE need to be able to roll up to this fight with everything possible at their disposal to be able to stop NIP from getting that buff. It would be so much additional damage in the tank for them. About is so strong now. He has 4 items completed on this Sivir. 10 seconds to go on the Dragon. River belongs to WE.
Yeah, they are going to pressure this out as fast as they possibly can. NIP are walking in blind.
Stepping up and towards Guwon. Handshake going to take it back away. Public execution goes wide. Scream display of talent lands onto 3, but the follow-up isn't there. Cube TP's in, and here comes Hoya in the middle of the squad. The hostile takeover will be able to create a little bit of space. Hoya's about to go mega. He's
mega.
2 back into the wall. Lands a stun onto 3. The focus damage comes through on a Monki. Karis sectioned off on the bottom side. Yaoyao doing his best, trying to disrupt this fight. Guwon flashes away from one more overload. Karis going to be focused down. He drops as well. 3 members fall for WE. NIP still 5 strong. They're about to claim Dragon Soul.
They look like they are going to pick up the biggest objective they can. Infernal Soul on the map for this team. And once again, it's the solo laners coming in clutch for Ninjas in Pyjamas. It's Hoya with a fantastic Mega Gnar engage, getting multiple targets into the wall, and who is right there over the wall but Care to free hit on this Cassiopeia. We're gonna get a replay of this. It looks like a great engage from Monki, once again trying to find an area in, but Guwon able to stay patient, not gonna get hit by the public execution, and at this point the teleport coming down is very, very aggressive. WE do not want to try and fight into this Gnar despite the fact that he's not Mega yet. Once he does get Mega, though, there go 2 of your big carries right into the wall. Look at Care, just free hitting with absolutely nothing to do over it. Assum's able to take down Karis on the other side, or at the very least keep him occupied while Yaoyao tries to buy space. And Guwon ends up surviving. It all ends up going right for Ninjas in Pyjamas. It's the exact fight they were looking for. They grab the soul, they grab some gold back, and you once again are feeling comfortable if you're on IP.
You certainly are. The addition of this Infernal Soul going to really help them out when it comes to being able to deal with some of the tankier members here on WE. And you saw in that last fight about not really able to find much time or space to auto attack. He gets a few into Hoya there, but nowhere near being able to work damage on towards the squishier members of the team, which is basically everybody except for Hoya. He never gets that chance. It's just too dangerous to step up that closely when there's still CC tools available on the likes of Hoya and Zhuo. If you can't make good on your very strong Sivir, I don't know what chance this WE team has of being able to win out these fights.
That is indeed your biggest problem, is you've got this Sivir with all this gold, but the front to back is so inconsistent. You don't have any ways to set it up. You've drafted a split push comp, and while, again, I know it might not seem obvious on paper, this NIP draft really does want to play front to back. They really do have a lot of tools after the engage to play through this Cassio-Callista combo if they can set it up correctly, and as we saw there, Hoya is on point today. If you can find another engage like that, they're going to be just fine. The dance around Baron has started. Monkey's making his way down, and NIP are going to have control for now.
And it's looking more and more like the same way the first series was drawn up. WE pulled themselves back into the first game, but now not able to close out in game number 2, and it's looking similar in game number 3. NIP capitalize on WE's mistakes, punish Monkey's over-aggression, and it just might end up being the series if they cannot find another miracle. WE trying their best to find an angle in onto this. Zhuo gets a little bit locked down. Hoya coming in on the side. He's a wild way away from Mega. Can WE capitalize? Looking for a target to get in onto. The engage tools are not the easiest in the world here. Eyes on Yaoyao, and if he can find a target to headbutt pulverize.
Yeah, you need to find that Alistar engage. If you're the one reacting here, it's going to be on the back foot, and that is not good for WE with the comp that they have assembled. They are fighting blind right now. Absolutely no vision available for WE, and TP coming back in to reset everything.
Yeah, this one is going to be Zhuo coming back in, getting another refresh on the wards. Hoya going to return to mini form. That does give a little bit of respite over to WE, knowing that Gnar not going to be able to Gnar them into the wall, but they don't really know where anybody is. Like you said, they're flying blind here. So they're just going to clear out whatever vision they can find, give them some semblance of control back over their own jungle, clear out some more waves, and this game will continue.
The dance continues around the map here. Infernal Soul just makes things so scary for WE. Elder spawning in about 2 minutes here, so we could just see the game stall out to a point where they want to play for that or at least try and flip objectives. where now NIP are going to have full control over what they choose to do on the map, but you definitely don't want to overextend. We talk about how WE maybe wants to be the one to start the fight here because they don't have so many, go-back tools, but NIP really do want to play this a little bit slower. You want to make sure that Casio and Kalista have time to ramp up as this fight goes along. You cannot overstep. We've seen multiple teams throw from here.
Out just picked up a Imperial Scimitar, does have access to the one-time cleanse. If he does get hit by a stray bit of CC, maybe giving him a little bit more confidence to play up and aggressive. They do see Hoya on the bottom side. They are going to send Cube over to respond, so it's a 4 versus 4 here around mid and this top river. Karis spotted by Guwon, has to retreat immediately to make sure he doesn't get talented back into a wall.
Yeah, this is a very dangerous setup overall for WE. Teleport coming in from Hoya. They're just starting this. They're going to burn this Baron so fast.
TP'd on over. It's a little bit later for Cube. In goes Yaoyao finding the knockup, so they're going to try to just burn down Hoya here. He shoots back to mini form. They're focusing everything they've got into him. A couple more boomerangs would do it. The Baron is fallen, but so has Hoya. They need to get more out of this fight. Monki looking for the engage opportunity. Flashes over the wall, jumps into the team, gets sent to the Guardian Angel. Yaoyao's been melted down as well, and the rest of WE, they need to find the fight. About stepping up, throws the boomerangs into Zhuo, gets a double kill for it. Assum gonna be able to get that fight right back, gets sent back into the bailout and will be executed by Cube. A huge team fight from the likes of About will give a one-member number advantage back over to WE.
About is keeping this game alive for WE in a situation that feels impossible for a Sivir to change the fate of this game. He is doing just that. You got to give a lot of credit to Yaoyao as well, who just continues to buy so much time.
All over him.
Oh my God.
Care jumps back over the wall. He finds himself face to face with Cube. He just speeds up the inevitable, and he's gonna drop 1,000 gold shutdown to Cube.
That's massive. Look at the gold swing from that fight. The Realm Warp coming in from Karis ends up making it inevitable that he goes down, but we get a full replay of what happened in this fight. Yaoyao finds the initial engage, but wants to try and pull things back. They don't want to overextend. He's buying so much time for WE as they chase down Hoya. You would think that that would be a bad play, trading 1 kill for the top laner, but you have the Ghost onto Karis, and because you have the Guardian Angel here on Monki, you can be more aggressive. Yaoyao buys even more time in that fight on the later half. Now all of a sudden Karis is able to free hit. Now all of a sudden you've got the flash coming in. About starts doing a ton of damage. Your carries are here. And now the Elder Dragon, as we can see in picture, is going down.
Elder Dragon to WE. And we say it over and over again, you can never talk about probability in this series. Every time a team puts themselves in a huge percentage chance to win, the other team cracks right back. WE, Elder at their backs, beginning to siege onto the base off of NIP taking a Baron and losing out on the subsequent team fight. And they're going to be able to get in onto this bot lane inhibitor. They're going to take it down.
Yeah, they are taking down this bot lane inhib. Guwon is on the flank, and they don't really have any other wave to move to. See how aggressive WE want to be here. They actually could be relatively trapped. That might be exactly where WE want to be, though.
It certainly should be. All 5 members of WE staying together. Guwon deep behind enemy lines, looking for a flank play, looking to reprise his performance from game number 2, where he picked off About and ended the game in an instant. But the rest of WE, they want this game to end right here. Yaoyao gets the engage, finds the knockup onto Care. Monki's found Guwon, and 1 out on the 1 versus 1. But the stun found its way onto About. Petrifying gaze from Care, buying so much time and space. But About stands and fights. The Elder Drake at his back gives him the damage to win out the team fight. Karis is alive. About is alive. WE are alive in the group as they will take down NIP and reverse their fortunes from the first round robin.
In what has got to be one of the craziest series of the year up until this point, WE get their revenge. You can never count out WE. They are fighters, they are resilient, and they walk out of this series with a victory. It looked hopeless, it looked unforeseeable at the time, but somehow, someway, they prevail. And what a series from their young AD carry.
You never feel more useless as a commentator than when you can't tell the audience what's going on. I mean, we just keep saying, all right, well, A happened, so A plus B should equal C, and it never does. Never for a single moment this series does anything that is supposed to happen transpire. Back and forth, constantly throwing by both sides. Team WE, a huge contributor to this game win, let's not forget, is that a random boomerang blade stole Baron buff. Oh, boy. But you know what? WE will take that, baby. It wasn't just a random boomerang.
It wasn't even just a random boomerang, because, yeah, you knocked the jungler out of the pit. You've got Kalista in the pit. And you still, on 87, are able to grab that. The improbability for this series to go WE's way was so high. And the LPL gods shined upon them, and they shined upon us as an audience here today with this victory.
They certainly did. I mean, this series was everything you could ask for and more. We came in here, we characterized WE as the team that falls behind early and comes back later, and in a way, I guess they delivered on that, but NIP are challenging for that title, baby. WE took some early game leads in this series for the first time. They threw them, because that's what we do with leads in this matchup and in this group, I suppose. And but they finally, you know, they showed the classic here at the very end, where they lost the lead, they were behind, that was the comfort zone, and they find themselves the victory.
Hey, I called it out on accident. You know, they're never more comfortable than down 2,000 gold. I guess you can just never be safe in the LPL. You just love to see it. You love to see games that are so back and forth. You love to see WE really committing to never giving up and really being, you know, pillars of, I guess, fortitude in the LPL right now. But for Ninjas in Pyjamas, this is the first time that we're seeing them tested so far. This split, they were able to overcome what looked like a difficult series against WE before. They weren't able to get the back-to-back, and now number one in this group is really up for debate, and that could be a massive turning point for both of these teams.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, game score now, something to be keeping an eye on as this series goes on. Bad news for NIP, who take every series to 3 games, supposedly. A couple of 2-0 series already in the bank for Team WE. They 2-0'd EDG, they 2-0'd Thunder Talk. We will see as the rest of the series plays out. And, I mean, this is where we don't even have to get too deep into this, but the schedule's crazy for NIP, because they've played WE twice now. They've played EDG once. They're going to play EDG again, and then they're going to see Thunder Talk twice in a row. I don't know why, but that's what the schedule is. That's what we've got on the calendar. So we're not even going to really get to see if in theory, Thunder Talk's the weakest team in the group, right? They're the ones who haven't won a series yet. I think a lot of who takes first in this group is going to come down to, does NIP drop games to Thunder Talk the way that they dropped them to WE and EDG? And we're not going to know that until the very end, because they're going to play them last twice.
It really keeps you hanging on, huh? They really want to make sure that this is as entertaining and as down to the wire as possible, and we're going to get that even tomorrow, right? WE has to run this back tomorrow against Thunder Talk, so it doesn't even get easier for them in the short term. They've got to immediately change their sights after such an incredible series. It gets easier. Hey,
I was going to say, it gets a little easier. It is Thunder Talk.
Hey, you never know. You never know what happens with those solo laners. You can never count on WE's going to go down 2K. You never know how that goes either. So,
nah, dude, Keshi is kind of sick, by the way. I am.
Yes.
Listen, I'm on that series tomorrow. I'm going to be talking about Keshi. All right, so we'll see you all there.
I'll let you get your Keshi love in tomorrow. I won't spoil it too much. What I will say is that it really just came down to execution here. What a series from the WE bot lane. I think when you're talking about players that needed to step up for WE, Yaoyao was somebody that we were talking about. Vampire was so huge for WE last year, was such an integral part of what they did and how we played off of Monki and what he was able to create. And that void in support was something that I think people really needed to see replaced. Yaoyao has done that in this series. He was exceptionally important, generating the lead for a bout, and then of course being able to translate that into massive moments, knocking the Kiana out of the pit to secure the Baron, being able to find multiple knockups in these team fights, you know, about being able to capitalize. This was a huge series for the WE bot lane, and they came in clutch.
Yeah, I mean, what a statement game for Yaoyao, too, right? A player who's kind of been public about his struggles with, you know, feeling like he's making a performance that is worthy of the LPL and it is worthy of the standards that he sets for himself. this Alistair game from him was incredible, right? He is a massive, massive part of what secures them that crazy Baron steal. He is what secures them the early game lead to be able to play up against this Kalista with a huge flash play. He relieves the pressure in the early game by making that same play earlier. A tremendous game from him. Frankly, I'd love to give him the MVP if it was up to me.
I agree with you. I think Yaoyao was the player of the game. I think he was the big pivotal piece that really pushed WE forward. And let's not forget, they lost game number 2, but Yaoyao was terrific in that game on the Braum as well, finding multiple ways to keep his team alive. It's a fantastic series from the support of WE, and they've been waiting for that kind of moment. You definitely still want to make sure you give credit to the AD carry that capitalized on all the things that were created by the support in About, who I think has had a great start to his LPL tenure here, even if it's not always shown on the KDA line. But really, I mean, WE just showing resilience. Doesn't matter how many times Monki gets caught, they're still going to find a way to win.
Yeah, I mean, and shout out to that rookie here in that last fight. He's got a Seeker's Arm Guard that he picked up there, and it makes the difference, right? In theory, you know, you would love to be the guy who's clutch and who turns his back and doesn't get hit by the petrifying gaze. But hey, if that doesn't happen 100% of the time, you're going to be damn happy you have that arm guard. So, you know, props to him and the purchase decision there, and yeah, for being able to execute on this Sivir in some of these clutch team fights, right? Making the trades happen, stepping up at the right moment, going for stuff like the Mercurial Scimitar to create his own kind of escape routes. That plus the Seeker's Arm Guard gives him opportunities to stay alive, but to step up and deal damage, where otherwise you saw before those items came through, it just wasn't safe. He just couldn't do it. And yeah, he's not putting up the damage numbers, but he's doing it because it's impossible, and you're going to call him a feeder if he tries.
Yeah, I mean, it really is just one of those games as an AD carry where you're doing everything you can in your power to win your team the game, get the early lead, make sure that you're in the right positions, spell shield at the right time. Even when he did die in exchanges, he pulled so many resources and so much time away from the rest of the team that they were able to really kind of pull things back for the team. So overall, just a fantastic series from the WE bot lane. Some things we need to clean up. Like, let's not pretend that, you know, Monki and Cube and even Karis are, you know, absolved from all blame here. But if this is what you can look like and still pick up wins against a team like NIP that has already shown themselves to be good, that's pretty darn good.
Yeah, well, we're going to go from the teams that are contending to try to promote up into Team Ascend to the teams that may be playing up against them for those same slots. We got IG versus TES coming on up next. That's going to do it for Kman and I. It's been a pleasure, Kman. We will see you guys sometime soon, but 2 new casters after this break. Stay tuned